and then it'll show you here, what the size of the tree will be, whether it's a full sun or full sun part shade, or, it'll give you the specifics. So if you have a need or a want, then you're going to be able to really figure it out. You have 18 varieties to choose from.
Wow,
So
yeah.
and we're just, we'll give them one a person and, 2 to a family. So, and Jane and I made bets on which ones we thought would go first. So far we're correct, but we're not going to say anything because that would
keep it a
introduce
secret.
bias.
Yeah.
So, and then we have sheets to hand out if you want this same information on a sheet. We can give that to you, so then you'd be able to bring it home and you'd have a little bit of extra information. We will be quizzing you on the Latin as well. So we have the common names, but we're going to quiz you on the Latin. Jane is all up on the Latin.
Lee knows the Latin names.
So.
Lee knows them. There's an ash tree. And poor ash trees, they unfortunately, so many things like them and they eat them and the bugs bore into them. So we have the emerald ash borer, which is now coming up.
That I know.
That's going to be a big problem. So
have you seen them in
No,
here?
we haven't seen them yet. Not at all. But you can always tell these by the opposite branching. They're like maple trees. So the branches come out opposite each other as opposed to alternate.
Oh,
so, see the opposite
okay.
branching?
Yeah.
So
Oh,
that's
I
how you
never
know. So you
realized
look up,
that.
they're all
Yeah.
it's a little arboretum. We have a little mini arboretum, which we have selected some trees
Is
in
this
here.
new?
Yeah, it's a couple years old.
Okay.
And the idea of this is so people can see a specimen tree of what a native tree is.
Okay,
You
that's
can actually
great.
see them. So we have a nice birch. That's a river birch. We have a lovely maple.
Beautiful.
We have a really, really cute, tiny little tulip tree.
And they grow fast. I have
They
one
will
of those
grow.
on my front
They will
lawn.
grow really, really big. And it started out this big. It was really 3 inches tall, and it's already growing very quickly. That's tulip
1
tree.
year worth of growth there? 1 year?
That's a year and a half. Yeah, this is the.
They grow fast.
Yeah. It's about a year's worth of growth. We have this is a swamp white oak, and it's got the gnarly bark, the kind of needles. Yeah.
Okay.
And elderberry, sweet gum. It gets wings. The sweet gum kind of gets wings on it. You can see the wings on the sweet gum.
Oh, yes.
Wings.
Okay.
That's like that
The bush looks like that.
And this is a fringe
wing.
tree. The fringe tree has really fringy flowers that are really pretty. They're
yellow?
lacy, like they're a whitish.
White,
Yeah.
okay.
Very pretty.
And when do they come out?
In the spring, but a little later, like around
Okay.
June.
Okay.
And black gum. That's another native.
Oh, black gum. Is it?
Yeah. The native. Like sweet gum. So we have the sweet gum over there. This is black gum. Sycamore tree. Yes. We planted that a couple years ago, and it really took off.
That looks good.
Just a little baby.
Yeah.
And we have another ash, and here again you can see the opposite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Opposite, as opposed to alternate. Most trees are alternate, but it is opposite.
Okay.
Cool. All right, then we'll head out onto the trails.
Here we go.
We have 8.5 miles of trails, so you can come back and visit and go all over the place with our trails.
My son actually used to work here blazing the trails many years
really?
ago. Building the boardwalk.
Oh, really?
Especially here and down in the Sourland.
Oh, nice. Oh, very nice. So this is a birch, another birch. It's a gray birch, even though the bark looks white, it's a gray birch.
Oh, so what's the big difference then?
There's not much. It's a slightly different species. It's the leaves are a little different, and the catkins are a little different. So
Okay.
you can't idea. And the bark actually has a little different. Has the rings that are a little different. So you can tell the difference. But they both have that nice birch look.
Okay.
The white.
Not the poison ivy.
Well, we do have some of that too. Yes, we do. Bald cypress, nice big bald cypress. And this,
wow.
yeah, they grow really tall. And these are the knees from it.
Oh, cool.
So it puts those out to stabilize itself.
Yes.
Because it's so
Oh,
tall.
wow.
That's actually its stabilization.
Is it? Because I noticed there's a lot in Willowwood.
Yes. And they will
Now-
have them too. But that's the way, that's just the natural growth.
How far north do they grow?
Well, they're not really a native for this.
Because aren't they more southern?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
But they seem to be doing well, and maybe that's that global warming thing.
Yeah,
It's getting warmer.
yeah,
It is getting
yeah.
warmer, and they seem to be doing better and better. So. And this is one huge stand of maples, and they also have the opposite branches. So we have all this is all maple. This is red maple.
Oh, really?
Now-
Wow, how nice.
And again, you'll see the opposite branches. Now, sometimes you won't see the opposite because a branch is broken off, but if you look way up at the top where they're first coming out, you'll definitely see their opposite.
Is that the kind they make maple syrup?
Yes, they do. They make maple syrup with that. You can make maple syrup from sugar maple. You can make it from red maple. You can make it from Norway maple.
Wow, I didn't know
You can
that.
make it from all the maples.
Okay.
Yeah, you can even make it from birch, but birch tastes different.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, it does. But you can make it from birch too.
Is it more bitter or?
It's not as sweet.
Okay.
Not as
Okay.
sweet. And the color's a little different. The color's a little darker. But you can use all of them. All the maples work. And this is a shagbark hickory. Isn't that a nice
Oh,
specimen?
yeah, cool.
With the shaggy bark. And bats will get up under the shag.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So that's a nice little resting place for bats.
Wow.
Very natural home for them.
Very interesting.
Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about chestnuts. Everybody know about chestnuts? American chestnuts?
My neighbor likes to eat the chestnuts.
No, that's
the wild ones.
Chinese chestnuts. That's Chinese.
Oh,
really?
really?
Yes. The American
There's one
chestnut
that
nuts are really, really small, much smaller
Oh,
than the
they
Chinese.
are? So the one in front of the funeral home in town, have you seen that one?
Most likely it's Chinese.
It's what?
Most likely it's Chinese.
Yeah, it's a
opposed to
big
American.
chestnut.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's what.
See,
so
I
less-
never realized that. Okay.
Yeah, me neither.
Okay, so here's the story. Back in the 1800s and 1700s and all that a long time ago, American chestnut was the predominant forest tree. They were everywhere. They covered
Oh,
the
wow.
entire Northeast. 19, I can't remember, it was 03 or 08. A disease came in. The chestnut blight came in on a crate of chestnuts,
Oh, geez.
Chinese eating chestnuts from China. And the blight spread from New York City, spread out. So New York City was ground zero for the chestnut blight. Spread out, killed millions of chestnut trees,
Oh,
millions.
man.
And none of the American chestnuts could survive. Now, the Chinese chestnuts can survive it because they've evolved and grown with the blight for many, many, many years, like thousands of years. So
Wow.
there's not a problem for them. But the American chestnuts had never seen the blight and didn't know how to react, and they couldn't hold it off. What happens with the blight is it rings the tree, it girds the tree, rings it, and then in the cambium, and so the sap can no longer flow up and down. It kills the top of the tree. The roots are still good, and the roots keep sprouting back. So you'll see little chestnut trees, American chestnuts, coming back, but they can't survive more than about 15 years, and then the blight
Okay.
gets them.
Huh.
So what the American Chestnut Foundation has done is they have a breeding program where they took pure Americans, they did find some, and Americans will actually produce nuts very quickly, like in about 7 years. So they were producing nuts, they got some Chinese, and they started a hybrid program.
Oh.
So first was pure American, pure Chinese, so it was half and half on the first one. That was actually the hardest one to get to grow, to be
Okay.
viable. Then they started crossing again, and they back crossed. And they kept crossing and crossing and crossing until they have 1/16 Chinese and 15/16 American.
Oh,
So
terrific.
they look like American,
Must
they
be.
act like American, but we're hoping
They don't.
they have the right genes that can fend off the chestnut. So we have this experimental plot. It is 6th generation. It's the generation we hope is viable.
Okay.
And we're going to see what happens. We're working with the American Chestnut Foundation and Penn State on
Oh,
this
that's
study.
wonderful.
Yeah, so it's a really cool study. So we
How
put
many
this in-
hybrid trees do you have?
Well, we started out with about 280 nuts. We started with nuts.
Okay.
Ah.
And now we have less than that. We've lost, maybe about 25% due to just random things like
Yeah.
they didn't germinate or
So where did you sprout
something
them?
ate them.
Outside or?
Well, you're going to see
Where
we put
we're
them in.
going,
Yeah,
okay.
that's where we're going. We're going to go see. And, some of them just died because it was too dry last year, and I've been
Yeah.
trying not to baby them too much. They're on their own. The whole
Right.
idea
Oh,
was
that's yeah.
survival of the fittest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we have 6 different families, 6 different sets of crosses. They're all marked, so we know exactly which tree, what its heritage is.
Wow.
And from that heritage, they're going to determine which works best for each different area. They've planted them in different places.
Wow.
And they're trying to see what works best in the different types of soil. So we're just one of many studies to see if they can bring back the American chestnut, but it's not quite American, almost. So they
Yeah,
call it
just
the restoration chestnut.
Now, will that tree make a seed that will sprout? Or
Oh, absolutely.
do you have to
They're
get a
viable.
special-
No, they're viable seeds.
Okay.
Absolutely. And that's the idea. They will, as these things get to the point where they are having seeds, or and the seeds will germinate because they seem to have very good success with it, then they will start crossbreeding yet again. They'll keep crossbreeding.
Is that a bluebird?
Yes,
On
it is.
that-
There's a bluebird. Yeah.
Wow.
Picture that. There's a-
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And we have bluebird houses. So hopefully they're checking out the houses.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. You don't see too many of those.
The type of that's a cherry. There's an old cherry there. And what do we have here? We have trees. We have some locusts in here. This is a cherry. Again, it's a cherry.
And the locust is the one with the big pod.
Yes, the locust have a big pod. All right, here we go. Here's a little sign for our chestnut trees. We planted this in 2014.
Oh wow.
Called the Restoration chestnuts.
Yep, there they are, the babies.
And that's what we planted from seed.
Wow. Wow.
And we had
Did they have to go through a freeze cycle first to germinate?
yes,
or-
yes, they did. They collected the nuts. They knew exactly what they were. As I said, they knew the families from which they came. And you'll see on each one of these tubes, there's some tape. That tape indicates the family. So they have all that to
Wow.
indicate which family they came from. They kept them in cold, stratified over the winter, and then in the spring we planted them.
Very cool. So
And
that,
we had
there's
the
the
chestnut guru from Penn State come and help us do it.
Wow. That's great. Have you been out to the gardens in Penn State?
No, I have not.
They are spectacular, and they did it so quickly. I couldn't believe it.
Okay, so they're just now coming out. So you can see some of them are pretty tall and some of them are still in their tubes.
Oh, yeah.
This is going to be their 3rd growing season, so some of them are pretty big and some of them are not. That one's coming out really well. There's another nice tall one coming out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can start seeing they're just now starting to come out. Over here we've got one. Right up here, there's a couple coming out. They did have some freeze back last year, which kind of hurt them, but now they seem to be doing better. This was a good winter for them. So
Okay.
that's my plan. My goal is to have everyone out of their tube.
Yeah, will they be transplanted eventually, or this will be a grove of?
This is going to be a
For
grove.
tests.
They're on 10-foot centers. The idea is they're not all going to make it anyway for
Right.
a variety of reasons. So we're going to let them grow as long as possible until they start crowding each other out. And then actually the American Chestnut Foundation owns the trees, and they will selectively remove as they need to get the healthier ones to continue growth.
Wow.
So and then they also have the nuts. They own the nuts, so they will do the crossbreeding. So this is it's a joint
Yes.
program. We have the land, they have the chestnuts.
Isn't it
And this
hard?
is polka dot. We have some black and yellows. We have one super tree over here, and I will show you some of the original Americans that are right down here.
Is that an apple tree?
That's an apple tree. Yes, we have an apple tree. And we have maple. Guess what? Maple. Opposite
is.
branching. There's 2 maples.
Wow.
And we tap. So they're all
That-
planted at the
that's
same
the-
time, and that's super tree.
Yeah,
I don't know
that's
why.
going to be
He
the
just likes where he is, and he's just a happy
Wow.
tree.
that'll be the parent of many generations.
We hope so. Project back in 2004, a gentleman came to the EEC from the American Chestnut Foundation. He says, "Would you like to plant some chestnut trees?" We said, "Oh, okay." So he gave us 7 Chinese and 7 American to see if this soil was going to be good for this.
Okay.
So we planted them. These are chestnuts. These are American
Oh,
chestnuts.
wow.
So that is pure American.
How old is that tree?
2004. So
Oh, okay.
I think it's
Wow.
2004. No, it might have been. I take that back. You can retract that. It's 2006. So there are 3 separate nuts in there. There's one on this end, there's one right here, and there's one right there. So there's
Okay.
3 little nuts that's sitting there, and they're all packed in together. And the Chinese has one, a single nut. Come back in a couple years
And see what happens.
You'll
Yeah.
see some big chestnut trees like that, we hope.